Hi, Lorenz. How are you?
Hi, good. How are you?
I'm doing good. Hi, Denise.
Hello.
I was just trying to upload the last meeting on YouTube, and it keeps saying that it's too long. So
Oh.
I'll keep trying. Maybe I just need to trim some off the back or something, just the extra space on there or something. But I'll get it sent to you guys.
Yeah, thank you. How big is the file? Like how many gigabytes? Do you know?
Look, I know it was like a 50-minute video, so I think that's why. But I can keep trying. I'll get it on there.
Yeah.
Guys.
Thank you.
Yeah. Since we're all here, do we want to start?
Yep.
Sounds good. So today we're talking about our personal crisis and picking a topic for our presentation. Would anyone like to start? Sherry.
If nobody else wants to start, I can start. If that's okay.
Yeah, sure.
Go for it.
Okay. So I have chosen a family crisis that happened about 2 years ago. It was a normal working day where my uncle went to work. And a few hours later, my aunt received a phone call because her husband had an accident at work. My uncle flew about 10 meters into the depth, which is why he was in danger of death. He was flown by rescue helicopter to the nearest hospital. Because of the accident, he suffered, among a few other things, brain bleeding, pulmonary contusion, and numb feet, and broken vertebrae. He spent about 4 weeks in the intensive care unit, and in total he was more than 3 months in the hospital. And after the hospitalization, he could do rehabilitation directly. So this accident was a big shock for all of us, but in my opinion, we made the best out of it. So it was a really hard time because no one knew how it will end. But yeah, the hospital was also very far away, and at that time the coronavirus was also a big issue. So there were lots of restrictions as well, so it wasn't easy. And yeah, I wrote down who visited him on which day because of the restrictions. And the situation was horrible for his wife as well, because before the incident, they woke up next to each other every single day. And from one day to the other day, everything was suddenly different. But we all remained positive in order to get through the situation. And because of this traumatic situation, we have grown together even more, because we all stayed in contact every single day to get updates. and we all tried to support the family as best as we could. So yeah, a stroke of fate like this one does something to the psyche. So afterwards he had psychological problems, why he's now taking medication. And before the accident he was a roofer, but because of this event he can no longer practice this profession. So he works in an office now, but besides that he recovered very well. So yeah, that's basically it. That was my family crisis.
Thank you for sharing. Does anyone else want to share?
Yeah, I can do that. So it's about my grandparents. So first I have to explain a little bit our family structure. My grandparents used to live together like for more than 20 years, and then they got divorced, and my grandma got married a second time, and my grandpa got married a second time as well. But my grandpa died when I was 1 year, so I can't really remember him. And my grandparents, they have two children. That's like my dad and his sister, so my aunt. And my grandpa got married the second time, and Johann, that's her new husband, who I also call grandpa. He had 3 children from his first marriage. So my dad has like 3 stepbrothers, but they are they're different than stepbrothers for him because they didn't grow up together. So that's a different relationship. And my grandpa got married the second time as well, and he got another child, and that's the half sister of my dad. So that's her name is Laura, and Laura is living in the United States, and my aunt, so the sister of my dad, is living in Germany. And now, like 5 years ago, we noticed that our grandparents got a bit confused because they were living in a really big house with a big garden, and just there was a lot of work to do. And suddenly they didn't do the work in the garden, and they forgot to do the washing. They forgot laundry in the washing machine. They didn't open the windows anymore, so all walls got moldy, and we tried to help them, but they always said no, we don't need help, and they also got a bit angry then. So it was difficult for us to help them because they didn't want to. And someday we could convince them to move to our assisted living, and that's like 5 minutes of walking from where we live. So that was also easier for us to just go over there. I mean, the house they had was just 5 minutes by car. That was also no problem. But it was better because the assisted living is just 2 rooms, and it's just smaller. And yeah, it got a bit better, but the problem is still that we can't help them because yeah, the house is smaller, but the problem with the washing machine is still the same. So they forgot the laundry in the washing machine for weeks. They don't open the windows. last week we noticed that my grandma, for example, has only one trousers and things like that. And the problem for us is we can't help them because they don't want to. And yeah, my dad is also alone because Laura is living far away, and his my aunt is coming 4-5 times a year from Germany, and when she's here, she's helping. But yeah, that's the problem. And there are some days where we can help them, but most of the time they say no and they get angry. So, and on top of that, my grandma has depression, so that's also a problem. And yeah, that's it.
Thanks for sharing. I can go next. So the one I talked about was my grandmother. She has always been a big part of my life, always been very active. When I would go out and play football and stuff, she'd always come and watch, things like that. And then when I was in my early teens or so, she had to get surgery, bunion surgery on her foot, which was just supposed to be a pretty simple procedure. She'd be wheelchair bound for like a month or so while her foot recovered, then she'd be able to go back to walking. The issue is the amount of strength that she lost in that time period was too much so that she couldn't walk, and she has been wheelchair bound ever since then. She has always been an independent woman. She lived by herself, but without her ability to walk, she was not able to, reach things on the counter. She had issues bathing, dressing, things like that. So we had to, as a family, kind of convince her to get into like an assisted living facility and that sort of a thing. So we did end up getting her into a place, but my mom, who has pretty much been a stay-at-home mom for my whole life, so the grandma I'm talking about is my dad's mom. So my mom would be her daughter-in-law. She does a lot of the cares for her, or has been doing that, buying groceries, things like that, because she's kind of the only one that's A, geographically close enough, and B, has the time on her hands to do that. But as a result, she spends so much time doing that, she doesn't have time to do other things. And the rest of the family, who, even though she is related to them by marriage, there is kind of like this disconnect there where she sees things that my grandma needs, but she doesn't always feel comfortable voicing her concerns or things like that because she is not blood related to my grandma. And so she wants those siblings to kind of be the ones to make the choices. And there's like a whole group chat that they have, but sometimes when she kind of voices concerns about things, sometimes things don't always get seen to, and she kind of feels like, she's kind of doing this all by herself. And that's kind of been ongoing with my mom kind of being her primary caretaker, even though, she's got me and my siblings. We're all mostly grown, like can take care of ourselves. So now she kind of has more time to do that, but at the same time, she's also trying to go back to work, do her job. And so that's been kind of a strain on our family trying to deal with that.
Thanks for sharing, Jeremy.
I could go next if Rose doesn't want to.
Go for it.
Okay. I will be talking about my grandma as well. So my grandma, the mother of my mother. I will speak a little bit of my family structure first. So my grandma came to Germany first, and then she brought my mom here, and also my uncle and one of my aunts. Another of my aunts lives in New Jersey, and then one was still in Ghana, but now she's also in Germany. And we live quite close to my grandma, like maybe 2 minutes by foot. And this year she had two strokes, but the first time it was okay. So she went to I can't even say the word anyways, but yeah, so she went to rehab and then everything was fine. She had therapy. And then she came back and then she had her second stroke this year. So in total she had 4 strokes. And yeah, so she had her second stroke this year. And we didn't know that it was a stroke at first because for somehow she started to forget a lot of things, and sometimes she was speaking about people from her past as if they're still alive. Like she was speaking about her parents or her husband who's dead, who has been dead for a long time. And then we went to a doctor with her, and he said that she has to go to the hospital because she probably had a stroke. So yeah, we went there and she had a stroke, and also because of that, she also has dementia now. And the struggle was then to get my aunts and my uncle to realize how what an impact that actually has, because the doctor already said after her first stroke that she shouldn't be living alone, and I think they weren't like really aware of how important that is, because she wasn't taking her meds regularly and all of that. But after the second stroke and her going to rehab again and then coming back, my aunt started to live there. Sometimes she sleeps there, sometimes she doesn't. Because sometimes as well, because we live that close, they think that we can do all of it, but my mom has to work and my dad is helping as well, but he has to work as well. And of course I go there and I help a lot. My brothers are working as well, so they can't really help a lot. But yeah, so it was quite hard to somehow manage the care for her, because she also doesn't want to go into a care facility, and they don't want to bring her there as well, which I get. So somehow we have to do all of the care, and for example, her medicines and looking that she even takes it and all of that. I have to do that because they don't really do that. So yeah. Yeah, I think that's that. But we try our best to support her.
Thanks for sharing, Abigail. I can share now. My family crisis was mostly directed towards my mother's caregiver strain during the time that my dad was on a deployment. He was deployed in 2005 to 2007. And while he was gone, my mom was working. She was babysitting at home, as well as watching me and my 4 siblings. I saw the strength that she had during that time, but also she did a really good job at like not showing us how difficult it was. Like I never saw her get upset over little things. I never saw her cry. And then now talking to her about the experiences that she had during that time, I can realize that it was a lot on her, especially with a brother at the time that was really struggling with a disability, and having to go through the process of learning how to walk and just do everyday activities independently. But with my dad, when he came home, we noticed that he had a lot of stress following his deployment, so he wasn't getting a lot of sleep. We found that he wanted to be with his military friends a lot more than with our family. And I think that just came from him having a sense of comfort, because those were the people that he was with for the last 2 years and went through some pretty difficult experiences with. He suffered a TBI while he was overseas, and then had to get some different services for that. We found that he drank a lot more, and he really never drank alcohol before his deployment, and that he would get really angry over just. I remember was he would fall asleep on the couch, and we would try and wake him up, and he just kind of had a really scary look in his eyes when we would wake him up, because he wouldn't realize where he was, and it was really scary for both of us. And following that, my mom, she went out of her way to make sure that he had some good support groups. We ended up moving out to my dad's parents' farm site, which was about 15 minutes away from where we were living at the time, so that he could get better sleep at night. The sounds of cars driving by and all the noise within the town was really distracting for him. But I would say that our movement out there has really helped our family in a lot of ways. Me and my siblings learned how to do things out on the farm. We got really involved in different groups like 4-H and FFA, different agricultural groups where we met a lot of people our own age and learned how to do skills that were really hands-on. So we got involved and were independent. And we now do a lot more with my dad. He liked to go hunting with his military friends, and now he involves us within that. And so overall, I think that my dad's struggle has really helped me and my family learn how to effectively communicate with each other, get involved, support one another. I saw the role that my mom had as a caregiver, how she cared for us. We're very close now, even though there was a period of time where I felt like we were a little bit sporadic, kind of everywhere, trying to figure out what our roles were within our family. But also I see that we got closer, and we saw that my dad's service was something that we wanted to do. So I ended up enlisting in the military, and my brother's currently at a military academy out in New York. And yeah, my family is really involved in something called the Yellow Ribbon Program. It's where we support other families that have service members overseas. And he's also a state representative for Veterans of Foreign Wars at the VFW, as well as president of our Rotary Club in our community. So we kind of came back from his experience and my mom's experience and kind of found ways to support each other and other people in our community. So that's my experience.
Thanks for sharing, Rose.
So now I think we have to pick a topic for our presentation, as well as talk about how we're gonna find resources for the next meeting that we're gonna talk. Yeah, we talked through our resources at the next meeting that we found.
Yes.
And then the actual presentation itself is, so we're taking the crisis, right, and then comparing how it would play out like in healthcare versus in like America versus Austria. Is that correct?
Yeah, that sounds right. Research that gives them insight on how their community deals with their selected topic.
So could we maybe talk about, because it seems like a lot of us have had to deal with like assisted living type communities. So maybe we could do our project on like how that system or how that portion of healthcare works, to include like memory care or you know, strokes, disabilities, or things like that.
So you mean to talk about like nursing homes and assisted living and things like that?
Yeah, just like how those kind of compare.
Yeah, sounds good.
And then specifically, because I guess it's supposed to be related to like a crisis. So crisis of like loss of function or like loss of independence.
Yeah.
So maybe focus on like loss of independence. And then specifically regarding like assisted living, nursing homes, stuff like that.
Yeah, that sounds good to me. How do we want to go about finding resources for the next meeting and sharing them? Do we each want to find 1 or 2 or 3, or what do we think?
If we each do 2, that should be more than enough. Like we don't have to include everything, but if we each have 2 things, that should be plenty to like pick from for the actual presentation.
Sounds good. And then do we want to just, for the next meeting, we're going through the resources that we found and applying them to how they would be used in our presentation. Is that right?
I think so.
No idea.
So our resources, it says that they need to give insight into how their community deals with their selected topic. Yeah, that's pretty much it. I think we just need to each come with some resources on the topic and talk about them. So moving forward, like when I go look up a resource, what would I be kind of searching for? Like what would we all be searching for, you know? Like are we looking at assisted livings within our own community and how they affect the transition into that life?
Maybe like one focus could be the living facility itself and like what kind of resources that provides. And then another topic or another resource could be like maybe like payment, like how like are these like government funded, privately funded, those types of things?
Mm-hmm.
And then as far as the presentation itself, we could organize it by, so, you know, America versus Austria, and then talk about what, you know, a loss of independence constitutes, like what does that mean? And then what types of facilities are available to help with that, and then financial resources that are available. And kind of break it down by those three categories for both countries.
Yeah, that's good.
Sounds good.
So then our next meeting would be November 7th, is that correct?
Yes.
Cool. Do we need anything else right now, or you guys feel confident?
So do we have to prepare it on our own, or do we split up like team, I don't know, Austria, team
I think
United States?
I think maybe if each person individually finds like just a couple resources, then at our next meeting we can kind of like go through and like present what we found, and then kind of pick from that list that we've compiled about like what we've got, and then kind of make our outline for like our presentation and stuff like that.
Okay, so that's the next time, and after that we do our presentation, right?
Let me see.
Or is there another meeting in between?
That sounds right. So we plan our project presentation in the next meeting. And then we'll present November 20th.
I have another story for you guys. I'll show you a picture again from our military, because they tried to pick up people with Austrian nationality from Israel, and that was part of our military, and that's I think the only plane we've got in Austria, and they tried to fly to Israel and it broke, so they couldn't pick them up because it broke. So that's the problem we have. They don't put enough money into our military. And yeah, I think they tried it 3 times and it broke again. And yeah, now Austrian Airlines is picking them up. I don't know. It was fun because it was 2 days after I told you we don't put enough money into our military. So
And that one looks like an H model to me, so that could be anywhere from 30 to 40 years old.
yeah.
And you said you only have one of those?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, that's not surprising. So we have a lot of those same planes, and they also break a lot.
Yeah.
But we have a lot more than just one.
Yeah.
You fly in C-130s, Jeremy?
That's our primary aircraft. We have We have 18 at MSP,
Okay.
and that's split between guard and reserves.
Is that the airport in Minneapolis, MSP?
So probably where you
Yeah,
flew in.
yeah.
If you had looked just across the runway, there's a bunch of those. That's where I work.
Okay.
And I see them up at Camp Ripley, up northern Minnesota. I don't do anything with them now. That's more Jeremy's forte.
All right, so are we all set for our next meeting then? Cool.
Sounds good.
Great work, everybody. Love
And
to see
I
it.
will try and get those things uploaded. Sorry.
No
I
problem.
will try and get that loaded on YouTube for you guys so you can submit it to your professor. And if not, I'll ask my professor how I should do that because it won't send in an email because it's just too long.
Yeah, yeah. All right.
Sorry, Jeremy. You all something.
What's that?
I cut you off. I'm sorry. You were saying something.
No, I was just saying that we can be done now. If we can be done now.
Okay. Sounds good. Sounds good. See you guys next meeting.
All right, see ya.
See
Bye.
you. Bye-bye.
Bye.